Welcome to another episode of Homeschool Moms Unfiltered. I am your host, Megan, and my amazing co host is.
Hi, I'm Amanda.
Hello. We are
Hey.
your source for messy, imperfect homeschool advice and community. Here you'll find honest encouragement and guidance to help you. Whether you're new to homeschooling or you're a veteran looking for some inspiration and to spark up and add a little excitement to your repertoire, you're good. We're glad you're here.
Yeah, totally. And look, we've both been doing this for years, and we still find tremendous value in just building community with other homeschool parents and caregivers, right? Having said that, though, community can be tough in the homeschool world. Like, it is no secret that the origins of the homeschool community in the US were largely people who wanted to like bubble their kids away from secular light and the evils of pop music and the dangers that come from fraternizing with people from different cultures, like, oh,
Pants,
other
wearing
religions. Yeah.
pants.
Pants. Yeah. Pants was bad. The
Yeah.
like a balloon between you if you were going to dance, the dancing itself was probably not
No,
okay.
no dancing. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that contingent is still very strong in the homeschool world. Very, very strong. We are reminded on the regular because we are in all the Facebook groups where we see people looking for a creationist science curriculum or social studies resources without all that woke garbage in it. So, yeah, we're there.
Oh, yeah. Just this week, I saw a homeschooler talking about how they got kicked out of their local co-op because they have a new no masks, no vaccinations rule as they head into like respiratory illness season. And so, first off, like survival of the fittest, I suppose. But we do not have to look very far to see just how alive and well that super conservative something. I got a lot of unkind words. I'm trying to be a nicer person this week. It's not going very well. Yeah, I'm going to put that out there. It's not going very well. But yeah, you just don't have to look very far to see how alive and well that mentality is in the homeschooling world. But
Mm-mm.
here, we do hold tight to things like science is real. We're also pretty big fans of things like human rights, kindness, and, civil discourse.
Yeah, it's hard to find these days, right? I mean, typically, we start our episodes with kind of a values statement that affirms our support for marginalized communities, etc. That way, people tuning in are like, oh, I'm welcome here, because a lot of spaces are not welcoming to so many people. But we are going to change it up a little bit today because we are recording this on day 29 of the US government shutdown. And unless something drastic happens, SNAP benefits will expire for millions of Americans in less than 48 hours. And I'm just not sure how we became a country, a society that disconnected so greatly from empathy and humanity that we're here. This has never happened before.
Well, yeah. And the critical thinking skills to understand what's actually happened. The number of conversations I've had this week where people are like, well, the Democrats have voted 13 times to not fund SNAP. And I'm like, funding SNAP or not funding SNAP was never one of the things that was on the table. Like, every other government shutdown that's ever happened, those things were just funded. Just like when this one started and the federal government websites were like, of course SNAP will be funded. Don't worry. And then they were like, just kidding. Our goal is to starve you so that you acquiesce to our demands without any kind of negotiation. I just can't. I can't. I can't. We are very aware that many of our listeners have been affected by this shutdown in any number of ways. And so we just want to put that out there. If you can help others, please do. If you need help, please don't be afraid or embarrassed to seek it or accept it. We believe that empathy is not optional. It's the bare minimum of being human. And right now, at this time, in this space, it feels like our systems and the powers that be who are running all of our branches of government currently have forgotten that. They have forgotten that empathy is part of the standard human experience. It's the bare minimum. But we here at Homeschool Moms Unfiltered, we have not. Okay. So, with all of that said, we are going to do our best today to provide a little slice of distraction from your day. I'm going to try to get off my soapbox. And I don't know, we're going to have this conversation. I'm tired, y'all. It might be slap happy. I don't really know how this is going to go, but we're going to podcast with the best of them or the worst of them. Today, we'll be talking about some logistics of homeschooling. We've been doing a bit of this kind of back to the basics for people. This is the time of year when a lot of homeschoolers feel like things are kind of falling apart, or they're like, I don't know, like maybe I had no business making this decision. So we just want to first off reassure you that you're doing okay. It's perfectly normal to feel that way and to think like, WTF, what was I thinking? It's totally normal to be there. It's okay. But also, we can talk about the basics and kind of help you maybe find your feet again. So, we're going to talk today specifically about report cards, transcripts, diplomas, all that kind of jazz that people seem to get really hung up on, especially when they first start homeschooling or when they're wrapping up their homeschool journey. And all of a sudden, it's like, we've had this really great flow, and now I need to what?
Yeah. So today's paperwork day at Homeschool Moms Unfiltered, basically. It's an admin day. I mean,
Yep.
we did a super, super, super deep dive about transcripts and portfolios way back in season 1. I mean, we did, I don't know, 5, 6 episodes on a book where we really deep dived into it. But we were brand new podcasters, veteran homeschoolers, brand new podcasters. And so it's funny because as we've grown our audience and we fielded a ton of questions, we realized that we went super deep into transcripts and portfolios, and people are like, but did they get a diploma? It was like way more than what we necessarily needed. So today's going to be back to basics. And then once you have this foundation, go back to season 1, check out those books on portfolios and transcripts. It's great content. It's just maybe this is kind of the baby steps before those episodes. And so that's where we're at today.
Yeah, no, exactly. So consider this like the start here or you are here spot on the map. You know, when you're like, I'm at the park and I maybe want to go on a hike, you're here. We're going to start here. And then once you finish this episode, you can go forth and wander into more content from here. But first, we try to start every episode. Well, often we start every episode with a rant from Meagan or Amanda about the world that we're in these days. But then after that, we try to make sure we start every episode with kind of a weekly recap. It's part of our whole keeping it real, read non-influencer vibe here at Homeschool Moms Unfiltered. So how's your week been, Meagan? We haven't really talked this past week. So like, what's going on?
I know, right? It's been busy, but good. I've been getting stuff done. So next week I'm hosting a pop-up hub here in Lisbon. We have 40 something families and like 80 teenagers and tweens coming, some younger kids, but mostly tweens and teens coming, all world schooling families. And we're going to do Lisbon together. We're going to go to museums and we're going to have board game nights and go to the parks and just do all kinds of stuff. So I've just been kind of prepping for that. I have our book club next week for the Patreon peeps for Homeschool Moms Unfiltered. And then I teach a book club on Wednesday. Next week's going to be crazy. So I'm like, I'm going to need to read all that stuff this week before that starts. And then we're doing a tile painting workshop next week because Lisbon is famous for its tiles. And we had booked the tile painting workshop at the National Museum of Tile back in August. And I was supposed to reach out to them last week with our head count, our final head count after I got all the signups. And they were like, oh, we've been doing construction and our timeline has changed. We can no longer host you. So I had to switch it. I found a local artist who's going to do it, but it costs more money. So then I had to check with everybody who RSVP'd and see if they still want to do it. And it's been fun, but I'm glad we found another resource for it and stuff like that. So that's been good. That's been good. And then,
but that's just so Europe, right? I mean, like,
right. Oh, yeah.
oh, we meant to tell you. Actually, we didn't. We thought if you really cared, you'd check with us. That's not going to work anymore. Reservation?
Yeah.
Reservation what?
Oh, by the way. Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So yeah, so that's been fun. And then smack during that process, I have just mine, not my kids, intake appointment with the immigration service here in Portugal. So we got the last of our paperwork done with the consulate in the US. If you've been paying attention, I was in the US a couple of weeks ago to get our passport stamped and finalize our paperwork. And now I have to file to just go and get my fingerprints done, and they take some updated copies of paperwork and whatever. It's a fairly low key appointment, as I understand it. But they just give you a day, time, and location. There's no input from you into any of this. And so mine is smack in the middle of the pop up and 3 hours drive away. So can't wait. So I've been working on that. Every time you go to immigration, you have to bring a binder full of paperwork. So I've been working on that. They need copies of bank statements and copies of this and whatever. So that's been my week. And I've been working on our unit study for November with Amanda, which has been fun. We've been passing it back and forth for Amanda because, like, I have it and then she has it and then I have it and then she has it. And at one point, I tossed it back to her and it had grown to 39 pages since she had last seen it when it was like a skeletal outline. And I was like, I got a little carried away. I'm sorry. But thank goodness I have her to, you know, corral my enthusiasm for history sometimes and double check all of my my speedy like brain dump of information, because otherwise it would be a hot mess. But the November unit study is called How Democracies Fall, and it is a ridiculously insightful unit full of critical thinking activities, etc., that compare events of the 1930s in Germany that chipped away at democracy, leading to total and complete fascism, to events in the United States today. And we used all kind of middle of the road news sources, not extremist news sources and things like that. It was all things like the BBC, NPR, Reuters, Associated Press. And so it's just so many activities. Like it's good. It's really good, if I do say so ourselves, right? It's really good.
Yeah, it is.
So
I'm most excited about the one where kids can go check out Ground News and get a good example, like a good feel for articles that are written on kind of like from the two sides of the spectrum, like from the far left, the far right, and down the middle. And then they try their hand at doing it themselves. They pick a topic and do that. Because I think that's just like, again, so important. We include that graph that goes around on social media of better news sources. This week I saw something, and I have this whole week, I have like so many of those. You're trying to have a conversation with someone and then they provide you their source, and it's like the random dude on YouTube who's the only one that's reporting it, or it's all things that are like the conservative equivalent of Occupy Democrats. And now,
yeah,
don't get me wrong, I enjoy a good Occupy Democrats post. A lot of times they're funny or whatever, but I do not take the ones that purport to be news and be like, yes, this is the truth with no spin at all. I should totally believe it, because it is not the truth with no spin. They always over exaggerate their position. That is what they do. It should not be that hard for people to understand the difference between an accurate quality news source and like fun social media posts. But a lot of people are really confused by them. So this is our chance to teach our kids from a young age, because this is going to be their life and they're going to have to continue. Like, it's not going to be like, okay, boomer. It's going to be like, okay, millennial. So they need to be prepared to have to deal with us and the number of people in our generation who do not understand the difference between real and not real. Yep.
it's bad. I know, it's really bad. Yeah. So that's been all my work stuff this week. It's just been like busy. I've gone through so much paper and printer ink and whatever else this week. It's just been a whole situation. So that's good. The only other thing that's gone on in our life, if you followed along, I think we've talked about it in the past, the fact that when we moved to Europe, our apartment is washing machine only, no dryer, which was fine all summer long when it was nice and toasty. But Amanda and I were kind of having these conversations like, well, let's see how it goes once winter comes. Maybe I can talk to my landlord and see about putting in a machine. So in Europe, it's common to have the machines where they do both functions. It washes and then dries your clothes in the same machine. And I was like, maybe I'll do that and whatever. But with everything else going on, and it's gotten hard to dry clothes, we had clothes 2 days in that were still wet, hanging on the drying rack with the dehumidifier going and the heater going and whatever else. And I was like, I can't. They were starting to smell. And I'm like, I can't walk around smelling like must. This just is not a thing. I'm like, I will work on figuring out a dryer later. But as of yesterday, I hired someone lovely who came and picked up all the laundry and is going to take it and wash it and bring it back tomorrow. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I realize how much privilege is in that statement when we're just talking about people who are affected by the government shutdown. But it needed to happen here because the clothes were smelling pretty bad. So we'll see going forward what the long-term solution is, but I'm pretty pumped too. It was like one of these things where like once the guy left with the laundry, I felt like relief that I didn't
Mhm.
realize like how much I was holding about like stressing about like, why aren't the clothes dry? Why aren't the clothes? Can we please get the clothes dry? Maybe I should do something else, you know? So I'm pretty happy about that. So one less thing that I have to worry about today with everything else that's going on. But yeah, so I'm pretty pumped about that. How about you? How's your week been going? You're getting ready for your trip, so I'm assuming you're bananas.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of like your laundry thing. The laundry, it's not that big of a deal. It's laundry. It'll get done. It'll be fine, whatever you end up doing. But it's that mental load aspect of
Mhm.
it that's like there and it's weighing on you. And it's kind of like, it's like a system or a program running on the back end of your
Yes.
smartwatch or your computer that's kind of like
Draining your
draining the
battery.
battery, even though you're not
Yes.
actually doing anything with it. I feel like that's kind of my life right now. And so we do have a trip coming up. I haven't really even hardly had a chance to worry about it or think about it besides trying to sort out the visa application because you do actually have to have visas to go to Bali, even as Americans. And their online visa system is terrible. It is horrendous. It took me like an hour to figure out the town that we were staying in because the town wasn't listed. And then the urban village for the town wasn't listed. And then finally I figured out what the regionality or something like that was. And like, I mean, it was not good. But the bigger thing in our world is two things. One, it's Halloween week while we're recording, and that's big in our family. We do a lot with that. So we've already had one big thing with friends, and we did candy trading, and we set out our candy bars. And I collect books all year long, so we can give out books to all of the trick or treaters as well. So that was fun. It's always kind of fun to come home and see how many are actually gone afterwards. And so we have that, but we still have actual trick or treating to go. And there's some friend Pokemon card trading Halloween something that the kids have planned that we still have coming up. So we've got to squeeze all of those things in. I'm not sure if I mentioned the last time we recorded, but I did take on another part-time job. And I will say I realize how incredibly privileged I am to be able to sit here and casually be like, I have no idea what the hell I was thinking when I said, yeah, sure, I'll take on this part-time job for you. And I have the flexibility of doing it from home. It's not a ton of hours, like 5, max 10 hours a week sort of thing. And I can do it from home and all of that is great. And I realize I'm super fortunate to be able to do that. But at the same time, I did not have the bandwidth to take that on. And it was done as a favor. And so I just feel like I don't know what that saying is where like you're meeting yourself as you're coming and going or something. There's some kind of like a common saying about that. But yeah, I really feel like I would love to just be in one space thinking about one thing long enough to actually feel settled instead of like, oh, I'm working on this homeschool moms unfiltered thing. Oh, but now I'm working on this social media thing over here for this thing. Like, oh, but I forgot to text this group of friends for my kid to make sure that the parents are all on board with doing this. But like, oh yeah, but then his other best friend who's in public school, like he wanted to see us on Tuesday because he's got a half day. And so I got to make sure I text them about that. But oh, but does that conflict with this other thing we were going to do over here? And I'm like, oh my. So I'm it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
I always like, I'll sleep when I'm dead, apparently, because it's not going to happen right now otherwise.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So good times, great
Mhm.
oldies. I don't know. Whatever, however it goes, right? I'm officially old enough that the music from my years of growing up are the oldies. So I
Yeah.
guess we can, yeah, there you go.
Mhm.
Yep, fun stuff. All right. So yeah, we life's a hot mess over here, but generally things are going fine with the kids. So at least there's that. And with that, let's talk homeschool documents. Who doesn't love documents and paperwork? Uh, I don't. Okay. I'm being completely sarcastic. I do not love paperwork. You might not
Mm-mm.
realize that if you listen to us on the regular, because I do like tracking paperwork kind of stuff, but like this stuff, report cards, transcripts, diplomas, school names, all of that kind of stuff. I don't like it. I think it's important for us to have a really honest conversation about what's necessary, what's just not, how and where do these documents come from and come to be. And honestly, maybe most importantly, why you should not be stressed about most, maybe any of these documents.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, I don't think these are things to stress over. I understand if you don't know enough about them that it's kind of this big scary thing in your head and that would be stressful, but today we're going to break them down and then after that you genuinely do and listen, we're very different homeschoolers. Amanda's over there academic aggressive and she's got her charter and all that stuff and even she's like it's okay. So, yeah, people tend to make them out to be these huge really scary monstrous things in their head and they're not. So, let's talk about kind of the function of today's episode. So, number one, the number of times that I see people who are leaning into a homeschool program because they have promised you transcripts and or diplomas, right? There are some really half-assed, mediocre online programs that will give you transcripts and or diplomas. And that is not a reason to pick a program at all, ever. Even if it's a great program, that's not really a pro to the program. So, I mean, it's fine that it exists, but that's never really going to weight into my decision about anything as transcripts and diplomas because they're easy enough to do.
Well, absolutely. They're easy enough to do, but especially with little kids,
Yeah, who cares?
you do not need a transcript or diploma until you're looking at sending your kids out into the real world. That's
Mhm.
the point at which you are probably going to need some version of that. And even then, it shouldn't be scary. But before then, I will never understand why elementary school kiddos are put into programs that are going to give them a transcript or a diploma that they do not need for at
No.
least 10 years. Don't start there.
Well, and in 10 years, the thing that you are going to need, legitimately going to need to graduate your child, doesn't go back to the fourth grade or the second grade. Like, no one is ever going to
Exactly.
ask you what you did on October 30th during the second grade in 2025. No one is going to ask in the future. Okay. If you lived in a super high regulation state, maybe you have to turn like quarterly reports in or something. Okay. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about transcripts and diplomas. No one's going to ask you for that information on a transcript or a diploma. Even a high school transcript is never going to ask you what you did on October 30th, 2025. Like, they're just not going to ask. That's not how they work. So we're going to talk about what you actually need in those things today. But these things that are being offered as these services with these programs, it sounds fancy and it sounds like it's going to save you and it's going to legitimize your homeschooling in some way. It's not. None of it, none of it, none of it, none of it's true. So, yeah, let's start with that as kind of our foundation for today's episode.
Yeah, for real. So, okay, we kind of just alluded to it, right? But the big myth is that you need a program to kind of quote unquote do it for you. So, transcripts, diplomas, and report cards, they're all administrative documents. They are not magical credentials. So this whole thing, we see it all the time. You cannot be a homeschooler on social media and not see these ads or posts in groups where they're preying on people's fears and it's like we handle transcripts, right? And oftentimes, the vast majority of the time, what they're actually hiding is the fact that they have mediocre curriculum that is either just subpar in general or almost the exact same crap that your kid would get in public school that you're trying to avoid, or rigid requirements. And we've talked about this many, many times in different episodes, but this idea that like the only way for your kid to learn is to spend the same number of hours they would in a brick and mortar school online in online classes. Again, we've talked about it before. If that's your only choice for a stopgap solution, we understand, do what you need to do, but that's not the best thing for learning for anyone. Adults who are bored out of their minds with that kind of learning, or kids who are equally as bored out of their mind with that kind of learning, and also just not developmentally ready for that. Okay. So, like, it's most of the time, if someone is marketing, we handle the transcripts, it's not a program that you want to be interested in.
Mm-mm. Yeah, for the most
Also,
part, not so much.
yeah, also, you can absolutely create your own, and it will look just as official and it will act just as official. You are homeschooling. That means You get to create your own transcripts, diplomas, report cards, these types of documents. You do not need to outsource your autonomy for the illusion of legitimacy. Now, that does not mean if this is stressing you out and you're like, I cannot try to figure out Canva to make this work, or I cannot figure out how to get my Google Excel sheet to format properly, and I'm going to go to Fiverr, use someone cheap if that's like going to take one stressful thing off your plate. Like, no judgment there, but you do not have to invest in these expensive programs or these things that are going to give you unofficial something. Like, no, you just pay someone to format it better for you. If you're like, I'm going to throw my computer out the window, if it resets one more time and this graphic ends up off the page because I cannot, like, I've been there. Can you tell? I'm having some stressful moments here with Canva. Canva and I are not getting along
Flashbacks.
right now. Yeah, exactly.
Don't pick on my Canva. I love Canva.
I know you and your damn Canva. And another thing that we have talked about a lot before, and I'm just going to throw this in there really quick, is this idea of accreditation. People often get hooked by the idea that they need something that is accredited. They need a program or a school. We see people ask for accredited curriculum. We've done a whole other episode on that in general. And usually, again, there's always an exception to the rule. We've talked about this before. The minute I say you'll never, someone will be like, but I needed, and I get that, right? So usually accreditation should not be any sort of a major factor in your decision-making process. Accreditation for courses, for schools, for projects, for curriculum. You can't even accredit curriculum. It just shouldn't really matter. And we'll put that episode that goes into why in the show notes, so you can go listen to that episode later.
Yeah. I am now the exception to the rule on accreditation because the law in Portugal says that your kids do not have to go to school, but they have to be enrolled in an accredited program. And so now I am the exception to that. But the weird thing is, and I don't know how they got their accredited, and I'm not asking, but it's an accredited umbrella school. So you just pay the fee and you're a registered member of their umbrella school, but that's basically it. You get a transcript from them that's like a fill in the blank transcript, but it's a paperwork thing. It's a legalities thing. There I don't have to do anything special as part of that school. I'm not required to use certain curriculum or hold a certain schedule or anything like that. But now I'm the exception to that rule as well. So, but I am A-okay with that. So, all right. Yeah. So Amanda brought up report cards. So let's touch on report cards. Why are we doing report cards? We did way back in season 1. We had Sarah on, who was a brick and mortar school teacher who transitioned to homeschool mom years and years and years ago. And that was one of her big things when she talked about kind of light bulb moments. She was like, I was making report cards for my homeschoolers. Looking back now, it's the most ridiculous thing that I could even say out loud. But she came from that environment. And most of us did, whether we were teachers or just grew up in that environment. That's what we know. So same as Amanda said, almost, because there are oddball instances, but almost no one cares about a homeschool report card, truly. Right? Every once in a while, you'll get a request for a report card from an extracurricular activity or a youth sports program or something that they want to see that your kid is a good student or something like that. So yeah, sometimes you'll have a need to just come up with something, but on the regular, you do not need to be issuing report cards, and it really doesn't jive with most of the homeschooling mentality anyway. So if you really do need one for something that comes up, a legitimacy reason or something like that, you can Google report card template and fill it out. You can be done in 10 minutes. You don't need a fancy platform. I mean, literally just slap some A's and B's in there if your kid needs to play soccer. It's not a big deal. But generally speaking, you do not need to be doing report cards. I don't think any state requires that.
Well, yeah. And I just want to encourage you if you feel like you might need report cards. So we do have a report card, and it matters more now because my kiddo is in middle school and technically he's doing honors math and honors ELA and honors history and all of these kinds of things. And he likes to go to what I affectionately call, because I went to them when I was a kid, he likes to go to nerd camps. And nerd camps at this age will often want to see what you were working on. And they do that through a report card. That's just like the easiest, like send it to us, it tells you. And so the fact that his quote unquote report card is going to show that he was doing honors math and these kinds of things, that's going to matter in that case. But he never sees it. He has no need to see a report card, to have any idea about grades on a report card. Like it's just not necessary in homeschool. I'm happy with what he's doing. He's meeting my expectations and my objectives. And so that's all that we really need to worry about and focus on. So if you are in a situation where you're like, yeah, we kind of do need a report card, again, that's an administrative thing that you, as the caregiver, as the parent, as the oversight person, that you do and you have to worry about for something else, someone else who also cares about it from an administrative side of things. But it does not have to matter to your kids.
Good point.
Unless maybe you live in one of those places where they give you free money or ice cream, or if you really want to cash in on the Krispy Kreme donuts with the report card. I like freebies. I'll take my free donuts. But besides that, it does not matter.
There you go.
Okay, so report cards, those are for younger kids, report cards are all you're really gonna maybe need. And even then, probably don't need. Report cards might, depending on how you choose to do your administrative records, putting something like that together, and it might not be a true report card, but something like that, it might help you in high school when it's time to actually put your transcript together. Maybe, depending on how you want to do things. But transcripts are the real record that actually matters. They do matter for high school. And I know it seems like, OMG, I gotta make a transcript for my kid. True story. It overwhelms me a bit. And I've done all of this stuff. I have a great idea of what I need to do because we read this massive book and we did a podcast on it and all of these things. Megan's done a few for her kids. She's like, truly not a big deal. But she too was initially like, OMG, I have to do this. And then she did one and she was like, oh, I'm not really sure why I was so worried about them. It's okay. So when you go to make them, first off, Google can be your friend. You can go look at samples and examples. But what they actually need to include is the course title, the grade that you've given, the number of credits, and that can be a little bit harder to figure out if you're like not used to, but there's general rules of thumb. There's lots of information online that explains how that works out, and the GPA. And we're going to talk about how to calculate that in just a minute. And then you have to include the graduation date and the homeschool name. Now, realistically, your kiddo is probably going to be like an anticipated graduation date at the point that you're working on your transcripts. If you're looking at applying to college or university or something like that, once they're actually done, obviously you'll have a regular graduation date. There are tons, like I said, tons of tools. There are templates out there, Homeschool Planet, Canva. There are all kinds of free PDF forms that you can find online. Anything. Like if you're like, I don't really like that style and I don't like that style and you're getting kind of picky, just go to Google and look at images and find one that you're like, oh, I like that layout. There are so many options. And if you really want to, you want like full control and the ability to customize, and you love Canva and you can't wait to do it on your own, you can use Google Sheets or Google Doc, or if you prefer Microsoft, you've got Excel or Word and you can create it in there and make it look however you want and format it and just customize the crap out of it. You go to town. This is your official document that you're going to give. You get to do for the most part what you want with it. I wouldn't go totally crazy. I mean, like other people need to be able to read it. But so the last thing for me to kind of put out there around transcripts, right, is the mindset when it comes to transcripts. Now, Meagan would say to think of it as a summary of your teen's high school learning, not a bureaucratic document. I would say remember to balance the fact that it is both a bureaucratic document and a summary of what your teen has learned in high school. And the important takeaway here is that neither one of us wants you so focused on the red tape part of the transcript that you forget the reasons you homeschool and the ways that that can shine through in this document and its creation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I am not about letting the transcript dictate 100% your journey. right? There's a way for you to have your journey and then mold your journey to the transcript in a way that is still honest and reflective of the journey. So you do not have to forego fun or differentiation or accommodations or any of those things during high school with the transcript in mind. The transcript will happen one way or another because guess what? There's kids in school that have accommodations and things like that. They're still getting a transcript too. So as well they should. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. 100% as well they should. So you should not be limited by that either.
No, absolutely. Okay, so we're going to do super quick how to calculate a GPA. If you're listening to this and you're one of those people that's like, right, I get all of this, but I need this very specific piece of information. Okay, so if you listen to us and then you're like, I still need a little bit more, go Google. But if you are a person who wants to listen and this is the way that you learn and this is what you need, here's a quick rundown. So you use a standard 4.0 scale. An A is a 4.0. A B is a 3.0, C is 2.0, D is 1.0, and an F, which hopefully I cannot imagine any world in which you are giving your homeschool child an F, but that would be a 0. So you multiply each course's grade by the number of credits it's worth. Now, this can be a little bit more tricky depending on a whole lot of things, but usually in high school, a full year course is 1.0 credits, and a semester course is half a credit. So you add up all of the grade points. So, for instance, if your kid is taking 2 classes and they got an A in one and a B in the other, that's 7 total grade points. You divide the 7 grade points by the total number of credits, and that was 2 because they're taking 2-year-long classes. That makes their GPA 3.5. Okay, that's simple. Now, you can choose to weight your GPA. You can do with honors or dual enrollment courses. Generally speaking, you add an extra half a point or an extra whole point. A lot of universities, a lot of colleges and universities remove the weighted GPAs when they actually go to look at things because it gets complicated and you get these kids that are graduating with like almost a 6.0 GPA. And it's like, okay, well, like, so you can do that or not. It doesn't really matter. What does matter is consistency. Okay, colleges and universities especially look at this stuff and they decide if they want a weighted GPA, and they're probably going to double check to make sure you weighted it correctly. But a lot of times they're going to take that out and use a flat, straight GPA as they're figuring things out and doing stuff. So it does not matter which way you go. What matters is that you have a consistent plan for how you're going to do it, and that's how you do it. Now, you just listen to all of this and you're like, oh my gosh, they said this was going to make me feel better about things. And now I'm even more like, I cannot do this. I'm out. It was fun homeschooling. I'll catch you later. I'm putting my kid back in regular school. I know that all of this, especially grades, this idea of giving your kid an A or a B and figuring out how many credits and then giving them a GPA and do I weight it? Do I not rate it? The grades, it all feels so subjective. But the thing is it really kind of is. Grades are subjective everywhere. And an example I like to give to really help drive this home is for me when I was in university. My first year of French, I got an A. My second year, I got a C. And my third year, I got an A again. And the only difference in my second year was that I had a French professor who told me to my face that I was terrible at languages. She's not wrong. I'm very bad at languages. It is just not my strong suit. That my accent was too thick, and that it didn't matter how hard I tried or how well I did on my assignments and my tests. I was a mediocre French speaker, so I would never get better than a C. That was her stance. Like you suck at speaking French, so you will never be better than a C student when it comes to French.
That does
The
sound very
next year,
French, in fairness, right? That
I
is
mean,
very.
yes, it is. It is. And she was 100% a native French speaker, professor, and she was just like, nah, screw you. The thing is, the next year, I did not become an amazing French speaker. I still suck at French. But then I had a professor who happened to be the chair who actually appreciated the fact that I worked really hard and I turned in great work, even when it didn't clearly didn't come naturally to me. And so the grade was not based on the fact that I was going to become an amazing fluent French speaker. It was based on the fact that I worked so hard for good grades on every assignment and every test that I put in. And it, I mean, if that doesn't show how subjective grades are, one professor's like, you just suck. Your French is terrible. You will never be better than a C student. C'est la vie. And the other one is like, honey, don't go into languages, but I really appreciate how hard you've worked. Here's an A. Grades are subjective, and that is okay. They are subjective in high school. They are subjective in university. They are subjective in homeschool. That's grading.
Yeah, very true. I love that. That's hilarious too. Okay. Oh my goodness. All right. So yes. And to Amanda's point also, if you're like, holy crap, I think I'm just going to pick the program that gives me a transcript because I'm even more confused now. Listen, there are tons of people, myself included, who do one-on-one transcript development sessions. You can easily get a transcript in one, maximum, I would say 2 sessions for like $120. Other people do them as well for similar rates and fees and things like that. There's no reason that you need to be shackled to a program all throughout to avoid paying $100 or something at the end, where you can take your journey and just match it up to a transcript. So even if you're sitting here going, I'm still super confused and I have no idea and I don't think I can make a transcript, that's fine. There's people that do that, but you don't need it to come from a specific program. You don't need to take, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of programs out there that you can use that are amazing. You don't need to be limited to like the 5% of them that offer a transcript just because of that one feature. So however you get your transcript in the end, then your kiddo needs a diploma, more paperwork. So a diploma,
but this was just a fancy, pretty one, so it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. A diploma.
But it is, no, it's okay. It is really surprising to me how often I see in homeschool groups that people do not realize that, like, your kiddo graduated from your homeschool. You were like, they're done. They've achieved everything I need them to achieve to be finished with high school. And they're like, but they'll never get a diploma. Like, bitch, you graduated them. Give them a diploma.
Exactly.
Put a fancy piece of paper together and call it good.
Exactly. Yeah. I ordered my kiddos from Academic Excellence. It was like $20 and it came in the mail. And I didn't need to do that. People do make them in Canva and all kinds of stuff. But I took I am, again, it's a privileged statement, but I am a throw money at this problem kind of mom. So I'm like, $20, no problem. Here you go. Send it in the mail. It's great. It's around here somewhere. It's on my bookshelf somewhere. So yeah, it is more of a symbolic piece of paper. It's nothing that gets issued. It does not get issued by the government. Even if your kids went to public school, it's not issued by the county or something. I mean, half the time when people are graduating, there's not a diploma in that little folder anyway. You have to pay for the diploma separately and get it afterwards. That's how it was. I mean, I walked for college. There was no diploma in that little folder they gave out. It was some leather bound thing with the school crest on it. And there was nothing inside of it except like a bill that said another $150 to get a diploma, go online and pay this fee. So yeah, you can do that too. Not for $150. You can order them online. You can get them customized, all that kind of stuff. You can print one yourself. Colleges accept parent issued diplomas all the time. Homeschoolers go to college all the time. We did a whole thing about kids getting into college. And I think it was during that transcripts and portfolio series that we did too, where we even went in to college websites and looked. A lot of websites had homeschool specific pages telling homeschoolers what sort of documentation they were going to need from them and all that. It's not a mystery. They put it out there. And that wouldn't even exist on their website if you were like this oddball anomaly, like the first homeschooler to ever apply there. They already have homeschoolers there. That's why it's on the website. That's why it exists. So yeah, it's out there. Okay. It is a piece of paper. It's not a certification or anything like that. So yeah, it's really not a big deal, but yes, give them a diploma. They worked hard. So do it. And every once in a while, you will get asked for it. When I homeschooled in the state of North Carolina, they needed to see my diploma in order for me to homeschool. They wanted either a high school or a college diploma. So yeah, so it does come in handy to have sometimes. So give your kid a diploma. They do not need to take the GED to get a diploma. That's the other question that we see all the time. Do they need to get a GED? No, they do not need to get a GED. You can graduate them using their transcript and diploma. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a GED. We are not judging anyone who has a GED, whose kid chooses to get a GED. However, I will say society as a whole, there is a stigma associated with the GED. And so if your kiddo has met the requirements to graduate, graduate them with a transcript and a diploma. If they want to get a GED, go for it. No problem. But there are people who, just like everything else, I mean, somebody's always going to judge something, but there are definitely people in this world who judge a GED, right, wrong, or not. We're not about judging that. That's your path. That's your path. Rock your path. But unfortunately, that is the case for some people. So if your kiddo did graduate with the equivalency of a diploma and a transcript, do those papers. You're good. Send them off into the world. They'll be great.
Yep, absolutely. We've mentioned a few times about our previous book club. And when you're done listening to this episode, you should totally go back and listen to that series. We used to do book club also online. We have transitioned it to offline, online, something that really cleared it up, didn't it? So we enjoyed doing the book club and we like it, but we really wanted to be able to create better community. These days, it is so hard to find your people, and book club is such an easy kind of place to meet around when trying to find like-minded community. So we moved our book club. It's on Patreon. We host it on Patreon, and then we actually meet via Zoom. But if you're interested in joining us, we're about to start our next book. It'll start next week. We meet on Monday, 4 p.m. Pacific, and then obviously then it gets later depending on your time zone. Our next book is called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Tate. Had it. I don't know. I'm so sorry. We all know I'm terrible with names. Anyway, the link will be in the show notes. There's no pressure to read the book. You can absolutely just come and join us and participate in the conversation and hear what other people thought and share your 2 cents about, kind of what you're thinking and where you're at with your kiddos and all of that sort of stuff. But it's really it's a great chance to just really develop that community and solidify that community that we're all kind of so desperate for. So if you're interested and you're looking for a new book club, come join us. There's a small fee. It's a monthly fee, so it's super affordable. But yeah, we'd love to see you there. The
Yeah,
Anxious
I'm
Generation.
excited for this new book. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited. I downloaded it on my Kindle. I'm ready to go. It's going to be good. Yeah. All right. We were talking about diplomas, right? Let's get back to kind of sort of diplomas. On your diploma and on your transcript, you will need to name your homeschool. So the biggest piece of advice that I can give you is to think ahead. Okay. It might be super cutesy when your kid is small to call your school like Bubbles Academy or Rainbow Sparkle School or Minecraft Academy or something like that. That's not going to look great on a diploma. Okay. It's just not. So I would suggest going neutral, something like Maple Ridge Academy or Stonebridge Homeschool or something like that. Using your last name as your school, like Smith Academy or something, screams homeschool. Okay. And just like we just said about the GED, there are people, right or wrong, who judge homeschooling out in the big, beautiful world. So if your child will potentially enter into an arena and you have no idea whether they will or not, where there will be bias against homeschoolers, I would avoid the word homeschool in your school title, and I would avoid using your last name. And I would certainly avoid Bubbles Academy. So,
But I don't know. I might go with Rainbow Sparkle School. I think that's solid. Yeah.
like it, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's the thing. And you just don't know who's going to see your kids' paperwork in the future. And if they have a terrible opinion about homeschooling or they ran into a previous homeschooler who was completely unprepared for the world at large, and then they're going to assume that of your child as well. So I made an effort to have our paperwork not scream homeschooling. And I'm not ashamed to be a homeschooler and all of that, but A-okay. It was just a choice to kind of go in neutral and just kind of not try to put any strikes against my kid if people have a bias against homeschooling who will be reviewing their paperwork.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's just kind of one of those good life mottos. You can be super proud of something and still also be realistic about the world in which we live. I gave my kiddo a pretty unique first name. For the rest of his life, he will have to spell it for people. But also, I gave him a really normal middle name that can be shortened in about 100 ways. and absolutely everyone knows how to spell it. Now everyone's going to be in the comments like, is his middle name blah, blah, blah? Is it blah, blah, blah? But because I am realistic, like I love his first name and it has a lot of meaning and there was a reason that we did it. And hopefully he will love it too for his whole life. But if he doesn't, my gift to you is the world's most normal, boring middle name. Run with it. And I promise not to get pissy should you choose to go by your middle name instead of the first name that I absolutely love and adore. Just be realistic about the world that we live in.
Hmm. Yeah, very true. The other thing is, some states require you to name your homeschool, North Carolina being one of those states. When you open your homeschool with the Department of Non-Public Education, you have to establish a homeschool name. You are never allowed to change it. So again, Bubble Sparkles Academy, when your kid is 7, will be on their transcript at age 18. So think long term. You are not always necessarily allowed to change your homeschool name.
And I mean, as much as a college or university is going to care about the name on your transcript because it's going to give them a decent idea of how seriously you took things, what they really care about, what they're really looking for is rigor, consistency, and proof of learning. So, again, don't do anything super crazy or wonky and don't type it up in a way that makes them think like, I don't know, does this person not know how to use a computer? We're not going for those kinds of things. But at the same time, it does not require fancy formatting. The college is not like, oh, I'm not sure that they had the most up to date transcript formatting software at this school. Denied. It's not like that. And like we said before, homeschool transcripts are widely accepted, even at the top tier Ivy League schools. They accept homeschool transcripts. They have students there that are homeschooled. It is fine. What really helps when putting your transcript together, especially if you're looking towards college or university, is clear course descriptions available upon request. Don't bog it down with all of that information, but make sure it's there in case they're like, they're saying that this is really advanced, but I would like to know what they included, what they covered, what their reading list was, so that I feel comfortable agreeing that whatever they said is true is true. Evidence of outside classes, dual enrollment, or extracurriculars. We talked about this before. This is one of those things, for better or worse, when you are homeschooling, outsiders will often think, yeah, but everyone's mom thinks that they're amazing. So if you have proof that they took classes with someone else and that someone else also thought they were amazing, there you go.
That helps.
Extra proof that your kiddo is in fact amazing. And then the reality is that while all of these documents, right? The documents of school, the proof of schooling matter. Essays and recommendations are going to matter just as much, if not more, moving forward with college applications. And so make sure that the essays and the recommendations are showing authentic engagement. And that is a whole other topic. And there are all kinds of resources online for that. But just remember that the transcript and the diploma, they matter, but they are not the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
And they are not going to like, oh, it's not absolutely amazing, so they'll never get into university. It doesn't work that way. It's okay.
Yeah, it's a whole package that they're looking at. They're looking at a really round view of your child when they're making decisions. So yeah. The other thing to consider too with transcripts, and I forgot to bring it up when we were on transcripts, is there's not one style of transcripts that all public school kids have, and then yours is the weird one because you homeschooled.
Yeah.
If you have 10 kids from 10 different public schools across the country who all apply, and then yours, so you're the 11th, all 11 of them are going to look different. They're not all looking the same. So you're not the oddball because yours is the homeschool one. They're all different. They're all formatted differently and all that kind of stuff. So it's okay. They all have the same
Yeah.
core information, but they're all different. So yeah. So in conclusion, right? Please, please, please do not let what I will call administrative fluff. Okay, transcripts are important, but generally speaking, administrative fluff drive your educational choices. You can still have a really child led or neurodivergent affirming high school experience. You can rock high school however you choose to and still be able to mold that into something that you can present at the end. So that is good. You, as a homeschool parent or caregiver, are the registrar, the guidance counselor, the principal, all of that for your homeschool. And I don't say that to scare the living daylights out of you. It's to help you stand up a couple of inches taller, right? Like, I am all these things. I am legitimate. What I say goes. My paperwork counts just like everybody else's paperwork counts. It's okay. You count. So yeah, definitely. You can do all of this stuff yourself and it will look legit because it is legit. Like Amanda said, you're going to have paperwork that's available so that if they question anything, which they might question kids who went to a regular public school as well. And they might say, hey, what was involved in this course? Were there labs? What kind of labs? How often were the labs? Whatever is the case. They're asking that of other kids too. It doesn't make it not legit, but you're going to have all that stuff. So if they have any questions, you're good. So do not invest in fancy programs because they're going to sell you a diploma and a transcript. A diploma is literally just a fancy piece of paper, and the transcript is not hard to do. Okay. Save that money for classes and experiences that actually matter and have the journey that you want to have, because the paperwork should not be a deciding factor in all of that. So you have got this. Okay. Wherever you are listening to us right now, please, please, please give us a like and a follow. It helps us get a little boost going on, especially because sometimes we come online and we say things like the Tuttle twins really suck and it's racist propagandist garbage. And then people give us 1 star and it really hurts, even though that's true. So we always appreciate it when we find our people and they give us a little boost.
Yeah. Or we say things like, human rights are a basic fundamental right. And people are all, you're too political, 1 star. And
Yeah.
then we're like, okay. We're like, oh, all right.
Exactly. Black Lives Matter. How dare you? How dare you? I'm like, okay. Okay. You have a nice day now. Okay. So yeah, a like and a follow. It's great when we find our people. We love it.
Well, yeah. And that thing, no matter how much we want to pretend like it's not the case, everything is driven by algorithms. And so our reach and our ability to connect with new homeschoolers out there or long established homeschoolers who got kicked out of their co op because they are, in fact, vaccinated and they need to find their people, the likes and the follows, they just help us reach those people who are kind of floundering and need new community. Okay, so
Mhm.
all of that, we like to end every episode with a mantra, and we've got one for you this week. This week's mantra is, you don't need someone else to legitimize your homeschool. Your homeschool and its documents are legitimate all on their own.
True story. Well, thanks for tuning in today, everyone. And we hope you have an amazing rest of your homeschool day. And we'll catch you next week.
Yeah, have a great one.